Hi everyone, this is Rohit from Lifestyle Mastery, and today I'm excited to have Daniil Shcherbakov, who is the CEO and co-founder of TonTon Games. He's focusing on the development of the company in the Web3 space and bridging the gap between Web2 and Web3. Daniel has done his MBA from Cambridge Business School. Welcome to the show, Daniel.
Hey Rohit, thank you so much for having me. And you actually did it right because this is a small hint to our listeners. Behind the scenes, we were discussing how to really pronunciate my surname right, and you nailed it. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, no, awesome. I was actually practicing, before I could start it, so I don't want to get it wrong. But no, thank you so much for taking our time. And we did before the call talk about how did you come to UK, did your MBA, but what got you interested in this crazy world of startups? What got you interested in this?
Well, to be honest with you, I think that was definitely a lucky coincidence. When I
Mm.
was young, I believe both of us are still young, but let's say
Yeah.
when I was past the school, selecting what I want to pursue in life, and actually all of my parents, both, and my elder sister are doctors. But at the
Oh.
very same time, when I was in the final year, my father told me, Daniel, I don't want to ruin your life, so you are on your own. If you don't want to be a doctor, I'm okay with that. And it was 2009, and back then in my homeland, most of the people wanted to be either economists or financiers, or lawyers probably, and no one was really into computer science, tech. uh, those people were seen as these geeky nerds, goofballs and stuff, but I just loved computers. I was never that much astonished by coding, but I love to like flash devices, do some different changes, build computers. I love tech, all of the gadgets. So I just naturally progressed towards it and ended up with a higher education in computer science. And I found my passion into it. So uh, it was completely natural, but I feel myself extremely lucky that what I selected at a very young age turned out a thing that I really do adore, and I'm in this industry since then. So I believe I choose it with a heart, with no, let's say, financial plan. So like when I'm talking nowadays to my nephew, he's so concerned what he should select. Well, this job will be like pays fairly in the future. I never thought about it. I just loved computers, and here we are, like 15 years later.
Interesting, very interesting. And we'll talk about TonTon Games, but just like you and me, we've been part of business development, and you've been part of few companies like Fancy and Fibrum. How did you, get into this crazy world of business development and partnerships and gaming world?
So this is also, I believe, a complete coincidence, and I believe speaks and tells, and even myself, a lot about my attitude towards life. So here is the deal. I actually started my business endeavors as a co-founder of a nightclub in my hometown.
Oh,
So,
nice.
when I was in the first year of my university, we started to do club promotions, and then we had an opportunity to establish like kind of our small nightclub. Long story short, it went bankrupt in half a year after we founded it, but at that moment, and it was already like almost fine. I think I had 1 year before in the university, and I had to think like, what should I do next? And I decided to go to one of the best universities in my country for the masters, and they had a thing that is called winter school. So the whole idea is, and I was never exposed to startups before. I love tech, as I
Yeah.
mentioned, like, but never worked in those before. So they have this winter school, and the idea of this winter school is that this is a showcase of all the programs that this university can offer. It's like 1 week event, fully paid for the prospective students. I went to this for the business informatics field of study, and they had ideas competition that I actually won, and it was judged by the alumni of this specialty, and he ended up inviting me to Fibrum
Hmm.
as a first employee. And actually, I don't want to be humble because he even says this more or less everywhere that I'm the one who even created Fibrum name. So when I joined, there was no name at all. But it was literally, I believe, 11 years ago when I
Right.
got into the startups. And basically, this is the funniest bit, and I think to some extent, this is also a bridge to TonTon Games. I'm happy to speak about it later, but here is the thing. The guy who invited me into the world of startups in the first place are actually right now my business partner.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, this is like a full circle moment. So I started
Yeah.
as an employee, then became a friend, and now we are business partners.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, the thing about starters is that you always get to see those people again. And it's like it comes almost like a full circle. But but you started TonTon Games. You went to Cambridge. Then you started. How was the experience? About Cambridge, and we I went to another B school here in the UK, but heard some great stories about Cambridge and Oxford. What's been the experience there for you?
So I believe, and I find myself very lucky in life and with Cambridge as well. So for me, Cambridge, okay, all of us have this like image of Cambridge on Oxford being something extremely fancy, posh, you name it.
Yeah.
And okay, they are. I don't want to take those from them. But for me, the best thing about Cambridge and why I actually applied only to Cambridge and not to any other B school was the unique entrepreneurial vibe that they
Yeah.
have inside. So, to all of the listeners or viewers of this podcast, Google Cambridge Judge Business School and just check out how quirky and goofy the building looks like. And I believe
No.
this building is also a logical extension of the people that are being selected to study into it. So for me, like the knowledge are fine, but the best thing about the whole business school is that what a great individuals I met throughout this year who actually became a part of my extended family, because it's enormously hard to make friends when you are grown up, and the average age of our cohort was 30.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
what I took from it is not this artificial term networking. I actually hate it. I believe relationships should never be purely transactional,
True.
but a real people with whom we struggled, laughed, pardon my French, drank. Yes, we are grown
Yeah.
ups. And this is what is the most important thing. So, and right now in London, I have at least 7 flats and 7 basically friends with those flats to stay overnight. If I, thanks to the Greater Anglia, if trains got cancelled and I had to stay somewhere because I can't go back to Cambridge. So this is like the family vibe. And I believe the last bit, because I got quite frequently asked why, let's say, not a B school in States, like, why it was born. And I think there is a
Yeah.
very, very important answer to that. Uh, Classes in most of the B schools in the US are at least 4 times bigger than in Cambridge. So in Cambridge, it was for us 221 students. Harvard,
Yeah.
Stanford, around
Yeah.
1,000. But what's more important is the cultural diversity. We had people that came from 46 countries. So, not that they have origins from 46 countries, but they literally came from those countries. Unlike in the States, where the majority of the students have the origins, but actually 70% of those are Americans.
Yeah.
And there is no good or bad in that, but as a person who had been in States and lived in States for quite a while and never dreamed of living in States post the MBA, this is why I basically ended up selecting Cambridge.
So super interesting. And let's talk about TonTon Games. What inspired you to start it, and how's been the journey for you so far?
So here is the deal. As you know, and both of us actually are very
Yeah.
passionate about startups, and we worked as a business development people before in the numerous companies. But what's more important is that I'm a passionate gamer myself.
Mm.
Also, my wife doesn't like it. She
Uh-huh.
constantly push me to sell my games or even Lego sets, for instance, because she thinks that's a bit childish. But I don't care. I resist. And I have been a gamer since my childhood, literally, and this passion has never really disappeared. And for me, this is the main thing to relax. On the other hand, uh, I actually love to help startups to grow. And for instance, right now in the UK, I'm a mentor in a nationwide startup program funded by the government grant Barclays Eagle Labs, which
Yeah.
is co-created by one of the biggest UK bank, Barclays. Also a startup mentor in Cambridge, in London School of Economics, Google for Startups. So for me, helping to others without necessarily monetary incentive, but a willingness to help is a big part of me. And knowing this and keeping this in mind, thinking of TonTon Games being a publisher of games on Ton blockchain in a Telegram messenger, this is literally the job of a publisher to find the right games, to find the right teams, and to help them grow and thrive. So this is like a perfect match made in heaven for me.
Interesting. And is this published only in Telegram or is it, on other Play stores?
At present, and basically according to our thesis, we are primarily focused on Telegram because this is currently a huge blue ocean. And I think the closest things that you could think of what Telegram games are is a WeChat
Yeah.
in China and
Yeah.
Kakao in South Korea. So this is basically a super app where you can not just text message, but you could also like run applications. And this basically has been around for less than a year now. So the market is enormously young. And the closest resemblance to it is, I believe, App Store in 2008 when it was
Yeah.
just launched and when there was no rules like Wild Wild West. And the barrier of entry was enormously low.
Yeah.
And as much, I believe, also social games like on Facebook, like Farmland and stuff, that for instance Zynga master it, and this is more or less the same. So with almost 1 billion monthly active users on Telegram, like the perspectives are enormous. The market is still in a very early stage, but this is what I spotted as an opportunity together with my partners, and we decided that this is it. As they say, it takes around 10 to 20 years for an overnight success. And
Yeah.
all of us, with our experience and numerous of sparkling failures, helps that this is it. We are getting closer to that.
Very interesting because I've used Telegram for from some crypto clubs and a lot of these sort of communities, and Telegram's founder had recently come into a lot of news because he lives in Dubai. He's out of Russia, but he lives a very I think he's the richest man in Dubai, but he claims to have 100 kids and he got arrested in France. It was super weird, but it was made like a great podcast episode. That would love to have him on the show, but it's super interesting to know that here's this community because as you rightly pointed out, like it's like WeChat, which is like huge community, but you can build games. But do you need to, you know, uh, pay money to get your games published? What's the entire process, for listeners who are listening to this?
Sure. So I believe it's very simple, and I think what you need to do if you would like to develop a game. So there are a few preconditions that, based on the best industry practices, the game should be developed on HTML5, other than Unity. Then the game should have the Web3 narrative. This is a current nuance of the industry. That you're absolutely right. Telegram is famous, and I believe one, if not the one, core messenger for all of the crypto people.
Yeah,
And like I think it's Telegram and X
and Discord.
Twitter.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. And people who are currently playing the games are the people from the Web3. And they have specific requirements for the game. So currently in the market, there is a race which is either already peaked or very close to a peak of those click to earn mechanics. When you click with the idea that then there will be a token generation event and you will get something out of your time spent. And this is fine, absolutely, but at the very same time, it does not represent the future state of the market because everyone thinks that this is what only Telegram for. But if you realize that there is, let's say, millions and even probably if not just 1 million of people in web3 who are like really like use crypto, think about it, and okay, there are a few like dozens of millions of potential users who are just after this monetary incentive, The monthly active users of Telegram is billion, almost a billion. So our investment thesis as a business is that we are not doing the shady schemes. We are not after it. We are after long-term incentive to make a Telegram a real gaming platform. We are not after the pump and dump. We are not trying to fool anyone. We genuinely believe that in the next market cycle, the real games with mechanics, they still might be Web3, but the real utility tokens and stuff would be in a great need. And this is what we are basically doing. Some might say that we are crazy and we are losing whatever millions of potential profits, but we don't care. We genuinely believe that if we will stay persistent on what we do believe, and our reputation says this at all, and our experience, we might be after something much more bigger and also beneficial, not just for us, but for the entire community.
Interesting. And when it comes to acquiring users, what's been the best strategies that you've found when it comes to acquiring them?
That's very funny because literally today I had a 2 hours call with my team when we basically did a retrospective on all of the channels that we tried so far and what worked, what did not work, and so on and so forth. So currently there are a few channels. I
Right.
believe one of the most popular and the cheapest one is the so-called tasks in the application. So if you are playing one game and in order to get more in-game currency, you need to complete a task, which means that you need, for instance, to try to use another game from
Oh,
the
okay.
list. The problem with that this traffic, they are not necessarily exploring your game because they like it. They might need a monetary reward in the original games that they are playing into. So the quality is kind of poor, but it exists. Then there is also the advertisement platforms, first party as the Telegram ads, and also third party as Adsgram, Tap ads, and so on and so forth. All of those, in some way or in another, are in the development stage. So there are some limitations and challenges that going to be definitely overcome with time, but in the given moment, they are also, I believe, a valuable channel, but there are a lot of nuances to it that you have to be aware when you bring in traffic from it. And I believe my favorite channel, and I find it the most promising actually, is in terms of quality users who are not just, let's say, after uh, like expecting any reward, but really would like to gain, is working with key opinion leaders and influencers within X, within YouTube, both from crypto audience and non-crypto audience. I will give you an example what I mean by that. So our flagship product currently called DDFT, this is a Merge 2 game. And
Okay.
for the industry that, or and for the audience that is, let's say, a bit aware of the Telegram and Tone, this is a same mechanic that Citizen has. So you're merging cars, you're getting better car, you get upgrades, and so on and so forth. So we are already in top 10 grossing apps on Telegram officially. At the
Okay.
very same time, our app, when we first got there, had less than 1.2 million monthly active users, while all of the other applications, they had at least 3 to 5. So we are building a real like quality user base, which we are very proud of. I'm not necessarily saying that others do not, but we are trying, let's say, to make our users comfortable even in spending. And second of all, we found out that these users are coming not from, let's say, buying this traffic from other applications, but when, let's say, a huge players or industry and thought leaders are showing trust in the products. And basically, this is very, very important at a given stage because, once again, market is still not there when people just playing for the sake of playing. So you need to showcase that you have some Web3 future. And even with this, we have a different approach to the market. And I will give you an example still with DRFT. And this is a funny bit because like the company was founded in June 2024. and
Yeah.
the DRFT was launched just in August 2024. So currently, it's like we are recording this in the midst of October 2024. We are already close to 3 million monthly active users. And
Well,
what's more important, with this Web3 mechanics, we are not after creating our own token with all means and at all cost. What we are going to do is we are going to launch an NFT collection that you could either buy with tons, or, for instance, you could exchange your in-game tickets that you earned now and get basically a booster pack like Pokemon card game to have like an NFT of a car. And later, you might use those NFT cars as skins in our next game, which would be a drag racing in a similar way that, for instance, it was a Need for Speed Underground in our childhood. So we are trying to make a reason for the Web3 mechanics to exist. And this is basically the criteria that we apply to all of our products.
got interesting. And huge congrats on getting to those sort of numbers in such a short time period. You're also coming up with 10 more games in the pipeline. So what's the strategy when it comes to launching games and then acquiring users? Have you raised a lot of money which allows you to build and then scale at the same time?
So we are at present at the final stages of closing our round. So I would postpone its announcement up to a bit later, all
Yeah.
because we have some great potential investors on board, and I would like to like reveal it when it would be possible. At the very same time, we do not invest ourselves into the games as of, so we are not developing them inside. So we have producers, we have game designers, but those producers and game designers are actually the ones that helps our portfolio companies, which we pre-selected, to thrive. So this is how we do work. And in general, the process goes that, let's say, a team might reach out to us with a concept or, for instance, a very early stage prototype. We basically evaluate the team and the prototype. Then we are starting to work with the team under the letter of understanding. So no contract at first involved. We are just starting to work with the team, bringing some traffic, and they do not owe us anything for that. We see the metrics. We have an experience of working together. And then if the metrics are great or promising, at least, if the team is responsive and also both of the parties are comfortable working with each other, then we are basically getting into the partnership agreement, which means that we are getting a certain percentage from a in-game gross revenue in exchange of all of the marketing efforts that we will finance, including user acquisition, PR, and all of those stuff. And then this is basically an iterative circle of testing different user acquisition hypotheses, looking at the metrics, and also fixing the product. Because getting back to your question, it is like it is possible, but there is no need for that. Let's say to bring 1 million users into Telegram app overnight, because it will crash. There is a high chances of that. So our approach is more iterative. So let's say we start from bringing a few dozens of thousands and look early metrics, whether application is stable, whether the backend can handle that much of the users. And then step by step, we are growing and growing and growing the inflow of the users. And basically with that, we expect to grow the revenue of the application, the time spent as application, the retention metrics. So this is like literally, to some extent, like an accelerator of some sort.
Very interesting. And how do you approach monetization, especially in your games, while also maintaining that sort of positive user experience?
So I believe the first thing is to respect your users.
Yeah.
Don't expect to suck all of the juices from them. And I believe people really do feel that.
Mm,
So this is how the market works. So there was already a few quite successful token generation events. So the Node coin started it all, and there was a huge amount of whales, let's put it this way, who got,
mm,
let's say, thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars out of the token generation event of Notcoin, or for instance, Ketizen, which happened recently. So what
right.
they do next, they use this money into investing a few hundreds into different other applications that are available on the market and see what will work. It's like meme coin investing to some extent.
Yeah.
And the criteria based on which they do invest is the quality of the experience. It is very easy for anyone to spot when the game is, let's say, third class. Like, when the images are done in DALI with ChatGPT and with not the best prompts, when the game only showing you ads or the game only ask you to pay. So it's a balance and it's a moving thing. So there is no such a thing as a perfect balance. So for us, it's also iterate and learn, but with the key thing in mind that since we are not focused on let's get the more users as fast as we can, let's get the most of the monetization, then do the token generation event and cash out. No, we are not after that. This is actually what we are against of. And since we are after long-term incentive and our investment cycle into the projects in terms of resources is also calculated based on this long-term circle, we are able to, let's say, not exclude the gaming experience out of it.
Got it. Got it. And how important is data analysis when it comes to in the game development process? How do you analyze the data to see what's going to be the next game feature for you?
I think it is the most important thing,
Hmm.
especially in the mature markets. But unfortunately, Telegram and Ton gaming market is still in the development stage.
Yeah.
It is developing quite rapidly. I think much faster than, let's say, App Store in 2008 or like, I don't know, social apps in also late 2000s. But still, it is in the development phase. So it is not just the metrics, but also, I will use a German word like Zeitgeist, which means some sort of a soul of a time.
Yeah.
When you have a gut feeling that there is something into it, and the team is right and the product has something into it, then you're bringing traffic. So I believe in the first place it's gut feeling, just and in addition to all of the other red and green flags that we have on our checklist, but it's also a crucial fact. And then after, let's say, green lighting the game for the first test, you see whether you are right or wrong. And in this case, I believe the main attitude is like with hiring people: hire long, fire fast. So
Hmm.
not to become emotionally attached to any product. So you selected it, you had a huge funnel, so you believe into this product, and your method and the indicators of the selection showcasing that yes, this might be promising. Do the test of with the traffic as fast as you can, and make conclusions. Don't try to fool your own self, because as I mentioned, this is like a VC business,
Yeah.
and we are well aware that in VC world, even the top firms like Andreessen Horowitz or Sequoia has a 50% failure rate.
Yeah.
So, and this is okay. This is the nature of the business, but this also means that you have to be cold-hearted and cold-blooded towards those.
Very interesting point you made about killing the product, but how you get to decide when to kill a product? Is it are there some metrics which you are tracking which allows you to make that decision?
Absolutely. So the conversion rates,
Yeah.
the retention rates, day one, day seven, day 30, but specifically day one and day seven, the time spent in the application, and also the money spent. But this is the least important because some of the applications, even in the early days, might not have the monetization.
Hmm.
And I believe the final point is the network effect slash virality rate. Because at present, we have, for instance, in our portfolio, a game which is growing so fast that we could not even anticipate it. I'm not saying that it was a bad game, not at all. I'm just saying that you never know what's going to be viral. You cannot get into the head of the user. So the main thing here is to have as many experiments as possible. And like as a fellow startup mentor to a startup mentor, what I quite frequently say to the startups that I'm coaching is that a company is characterized and the company is failed actually not primarily because of the it is ran out of money, or not because it had a feud between founders, but when it ran out of hypothesis to test.
Mm.
And this is more or less the attitude that we are also using here, just like to iterate and learn, and constantly speeding up the cycle of it.
Got it. And Daniel, what trends do you see emerging in the casual mobile gaming market, especially when it comes to games and also in terms of markets and platforms?
So what I constantly see and what I currently see, and even it reflects on the developers that coming to us in TonTon Games.
Yeah.
So I believe that at present, super casual and casual games on mobile platforms are dying. So there is
Oh,
too much of those. But what's more important, that it has became incredibly hard for an indie developer or a small to medium sized game development studio to create a real hit, because you need millions, billions, zillions of dollars into marketing promotion. And
mm,
those people who is very earning their bread and butter in a hard way, they feel kinda not abandoned, but helpless.
yeah.
Because this market, they cannot jump to another stage, but there is no other way to use their skills, so they keep building, keep trying. But this is like a Russian roulette to some extent. And a lot of the developers that are coming right now to us and to the Tone are those people who are already very experienced, who
Mm,
even might have a few hits of features in App Store or Google Play, but this is not like a multi-million successful games. And they, with all of their knowledge, they would like to make a bet onto the new blue ocean because they're still hungry. While, for instance, the biggest publishers, for them currently, Telegram is not so lucrative
yeah.
because they feel themselves very comfortable in the markets that they already are. So basically, uh, what we do believe in and what is like our vision, that at present still games on Telegram is a niche thing, but slowly this weight and ratio in between pure Web3 gamers and Web2 gamers will start to change. And it will dramatically change overnight when Telegram will add a apps button into the interface, because there is none currently. And once it's happened, we expect the mass adoption to happen literally overnight. And
Got it.
this is when we would like to be there with the franchises and games that are tested in real life on a small scale. And by this time, we expect, let's say, to skyrocket in terms of the growth.
Got it, got it. Super interesting. And Daniel, couple of days back there was a debate on Twitter, and I had Nick Huber, who's a previous guest. He runs a self storage business on Twitter. He's pretty big over there, and he and Elon Musk got into a bit of a debate about why Elon was like kids should play mobile video games, and Nick was like, no, he'll never allow his kids to play games. And what are your thoughts on that? Because games can be very addictive, but do you and you also played games, but do you see that trend where younger kids, because they have access to mobile phones and access to such games, should they play games, or should they be restricted?
Wow, it's a great question, especially for me to answer, who is not a parent yet.
Yeah.
But at the very same time, trying to self-reflect what would be my attitude, what I find out that unfortunately, quite often the mobile devices are used by parents to basically make their children occupied.
Yeah.
And this is definitely a bad trend. I'm not saying that everyone does that, not at all, but it definitely exists. So for
Mm.
me, it is more about a thing why a kid is playing in a game. is everything so bad into his life for whatever reason, like, mentally, or like a rough days at school, or no supports in the family. So for me, the question is not whether they should play or not should play, but why are they playing?
Mm.
And like I had a Famicom slash NES from the very early age, and I couldn't say that I was that much limited by the amount times I played. But I balance, but I also don't want to have this like survivor syndrome. So
Yeah.
overall, I think it's a job of a parent to be a good parent to their kid and to balance it. At the very same time, it's a great question because when I was young, yes, I have NES, but we had only one TV at the house, so I couldn't play like 24/7 for obvious reasons. While right now, with these mobile phones, you can do, and this is a bit sad, so I believe it should be limited to like a few hours a day or something, but definitely not restricted. Because knowing myself as a kid, if something is restricted, I'm definitely up for that.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah, makes sense. And especially for those who are budding game developers or they would want to get into gaming industry, where do you see the trend of gamers coming in the next few years? Is it mostly Asia or Africa, or do you still see developed countries in Europe and US where you're seeing more of these gamers coming from?
It's a good question. I believe if you're talking about new gamers, it's definitely the developing world where the
Mm.
penetration of the gaming consoles or even mobile gaming is not so high compared, let's say, to Asia, to the Western Europe, to United States. But what concerns me much more, I actually today watched a video on that note because I'm kind of curious on the state of the gaming development industry as an industry,
Yeah.
is that there is less and less, like there is triple A game, which is a blockbuster, like Call of Duty or whatever, and there are indie games, but there is less and less, let's say, double A games, because the development is getting more and more expensive. And this is what actually makes me really afraid of things, that it is not just the gamers. Industry should evolve and continue evolving and bring in unique and great experiences. We all aware of a dramatic failure of a Concorde. So I think this is, as they say, and me graduating from B school, like it's very weird to say that, but it is not only the finances that drives the gaming market. It's also the
Mm.
soul, and the moment and the passion, and this is when the greatest games happening. It's not only just the safe bets, and this is what I'm really looking to for the market, and even us doing exactly this in Tone and on Telegram, that we are not just trying to create a zoo of clickers and tap to earns applications to capitalize in the moment because it is the safest best. We are taking the risk because we would like to move the industry further. And I think this is what currently industry is lacking. And if you will look at the latest generation of consoles, I mean like Series X, Xbox, PlayStation 5, the notorious PlayStation 5 Pro, you could see that they keep upgrading the hardware, but there is not that much exclusives. And I believe this, let's say, big gaming industry will have a reflection on the mobile gaming industry and on any other game or social gaming industry as well. So everything is interconnected. And for me, the main thing that I would like to industry to keep developing and to keep developing a great games and gaming experience instead of making the graphics more and more realistic.
Mm, got it. Interesting. And I've been a content guy. I've done podcasts for a couple of years now. But when it comes to content, what is it? What is it that is working? And especially what has happened in the last year or two is people are saying SEO is dead. But when it comes to growth channels, does content and SEO play in your growth channels?
Currently, definitely not,
Okay.
but not because there is something with SEO. I actually once in a previous project, it was a B2B software as a service startup. I actually
Yeah.
grew the blog monthly unique visits from a few hundreds to 10 or 12,000 per
Nice.
month. So, and it was 2018, 19, so not far from now. Okay, 5 years, but still You know, there is a very weird phrase that I will translate into English, that if you don't like cats, you simply don't know how to cook them. I don't expect the listeners to cook the cats, but my point is that quite often people don't like a channel or something primarily because they don't know how to use it. And for
Yeah.
me, nothing is really that. It's all about, can you approach it in the right way? Are you willing to dedicate enough time? Because as you know, with SEO, it requires from 3 to 6 months to see the first results.
Yeah.
It's not like real ads when you pay and you see the conversion rate.
True.
So it all depends on the market, the state of the industry, and what actually your goals are.
Got it. Got it. Interesting. And finally, obviously, I want to talk about AI. I've seen in the last year or two, it has really disrupted the content, yeah, market. It's become easier for podcasters and writers to create a lot more content. But do you think AI will disrupt, the software market? Will we have 100x number of softwares and gaming, games because of AI, or do you think it's just going to be helping gamers or the gaming developers to build more of these games?
I will give you a great example from my own life. So, as a business development guy in my core, I love writing cold emails.
Right.
This is what brings me joy. This is how I met my wife. This is how I even got into Cambridge in the first place.
Nice.
But here is the deal. Everyone talks about ChatGPT, OpenAI, and that it's going, let's say, to kill the people who does consulting jobs on that. And
True.
I can tell you, hell no, at least based on the current state. Because
True.
if you don't know how does a good cold email looks like, the cold emails that ChatGPT gives you right away would unfortunately stink. And
Yeah.
I think this is my approach towards everything in this case. That ChatGPT or any AI tools which are, let's say, more niche specific, won't replace us as humans,
Yeah.
as professionals, but it might can be a very helping tool. And I think all of this stress about us being replaced by robots, it's more driven by the media because those taglines and headlines are much more likely to be clicked other than a scientific explanation what it is really is. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to remain optimistic about it. And I think the another example of that look at your YouTube like feed. Uh, you live like all of us lives in a very narrow bubble of the information that we are interested in.
True.
But YouTube is so much bigger as everything, and the same with the tools. The existence of a specific tool not necessarily means that the people that really needs it will find it. And
Mm.
this is also the nuance. Like for instance, people like asking for an email when they just can go to the website. And I know this is a very lame example, but this still like happens quite
Yeah.
often.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Daniel, I quickly want to do the top three. What's your favorite business book?
Uh, Atomic Habits. It actually changed my life. I think that I most likely have truly ADHD. Yes, I think I named it right. Yes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it helps me. There is a benefit and and a downside into it, but it helped me a lot, especially in this rapidly changing times in startups. Basically, every day to stay focused and get things done. So if you are unfocused, don't start something and never finishing it, I can't stop recommending it. And I really do mean it. It really changed my life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's also one of my favorite books, and had the honor of having James Clear on the pod. So we'll put that on the show notes. And if you could go back in time, I know it's been very early for you. If you could go back in time when you started with TonTon Games, what is one thing you would have focused on or done things differently?
This is very fun when you say if you go like very big, like if I'm going to July 2024, what I will do differently. I would say that I would be more open with my then business partners in my previous business that I would like to start TonTon Games.
Okay. Got it.
Other
And
than other than that, to be very honest with you, like TonTon Games is a product of numerous failures that I have done before with a lot of early stage startups. So
mm,
I have been to this level in a game quite a lot. What I'm more terrified about is what will happen when we'll get to the A round or B round, because
yeah,
in this on those levels I have never been into. So this is what I'm really uh excited and kind of terrified about. So this is what I expect the most mistakes to happen, which is I'm absolutely fine with, because I believe the system is characterized not by mistakes but a reaction to those. But so far so good.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And what's your favorite online tool? For example, Gmail, Slack, Zoom.
Well, I believe, and I'm just looking into my productivity tools, and I think it is the tool called Use Bubbles. It is
Okay.
a online calls transcription and recording tool. I love it. So it's basically an AI assistant on your Zoom calls, on your Google Meet calls that greatly and very accurately transcribe the calls, make summaries, create action points. It's very affordable. They have a free version. I'm not anyway associated with those. I'm paying for my subscription for our team subscriptions. And this helps me a lot because when you have a never-ending sequence of calls every day and you feel like a character of a smooth operator song of Sade, uh, you could not really focus on a call, and you might just be present on the call but not actually listening. And the fact that the call is being recorded and transcribed later by this bot helps a lot because you can catch up.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. We'll put that in the show notes. And Daniel, what's the best way people can reach out to you and know more about TonTon Games?
So first of all, I'm inviting everyone to add me on LinkedIn. I'm very open. I quite frequently text on LinkedIn on the numerous entrepreneurial related topics because I love it. And if you have a great game or willing to create something on Telegram, don't hesitate to reach out to tonton.games. The website is that easy, or hello@tonton.games, and we can take it from there.
Got it. We'll put that in the show notes. Daniel, thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us. I really enjoyed my conversation with you.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me.